Good evening. It is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023, and coming to you from Studio 1A at Lonely Tree Media headquarters in Yakima, Washington. This is the Best Lamb Sports Show.
Sam Martin corrals the snap. It's a short punt. Gibson on the return. Near side. I don't see any flags. Gibson inside the 30. Hits the Jets. And he's going to go. Jets win it. Touchdown. Rookie Xavier Gibson. Game over.
That was Joe Buck on the call for ESPN on Monday night for Monday Night Football. If you watched the Jets-Bills game, did you watch the Jets-Bills game?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was exciting stuff. Xavier Gibson returning the game-winning punt in overtime. The game-winning punt return in overtime.
Should have been penalized.
I mean, they all should be penalized.
They still would have been in field goal range even with the penalties. So.
Yeah, and then of course we talked earlier about the the Morstead attempt at a tackle, whatever you want to call it, this double slap. He did like a two-hand touch. Is that good enough?
Somebody referred to it on the radio today as the double fist spinning karate something.
Right? I don't know what his plan was. I don't know if he was trying to take him off his feet or what, but it was not a very good attempt at I mean, game-saving tackle. You could have got a game-saving tackle right there. And he just said, nah, I need to punt for another few years.
It's all about the element of surprise.
I don't know. I mean, I've watched guys dive down and duck their head and roll at a guy's legs, and he didn't do that. He didn't try and push him. He overran it somehow. I mean, he took a bad angle. So I mean,
a bad angle, and by the time he got to him, his momentum was kind of going south. The other guy's was kind of going north. So he didn't have a lot of options. But it was no. Do you remember when Kenyon Barner got rocked by that kicker?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Absolutely got picked up and body slammed, and then he stood over him and talked a little trash. And I'm like, okay, I'm not mad about it.
That's what you need in a kicker, man.
That is what Morstead needed to channel, was whoever that was.
Right. So I'm your host, David Lamm. With me is my son, Parker. Say hello, Parker.
Hello, Parker. Hey, they are here.
They are. It's a good group in here. A couple of guys are a little sketchy, but it's not too bad. We try and screen them at the entrance. Our security's lacking at the studio. It's just, I mean, we have some security, but they don't do much but lay around. Just FYI. I mean, I pay them in dog bones, so I don't know. It's hard to find good help. Is all I'm trying to say. We're on YouTube, on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can send us an email, lambsports@gmail.com. Please check out the webpage, which is just lambsports.com. You can find links to the past shows, the current trivia question on the website. We got college football to talk about week 2. Week 2 confuses me again still because we had week 0, or what do you want to call it?
Week 0.
Is it week 0? Is that what it's called?
It's week 0, yeah.
We had week 0. So some teams have played 3 games. Right. Some teams, Colorado State, I'm looking at you, has played 1 game.
1 game.
And I don't even understand.
They took their bye early.
They took the bye week right off the bat. We're just going to need more time to get ready. I don't know if that's what happened, but it's weird to me. We got college football. The WNBA Playoffs started today, and then we have a lawsuit. We're gonna talk about a lawsuit. But first, we got the trivia question. The Stave and Stone Wine Estates trivia question. Are you ready for a doozy?
I'm ready for a doozy.
Okay. In the Power 5 conferences, NCAA Power 5 conferences, there are 6 schools that don't have a living creature as a mascot.
Oh.
So that's an animal or a human, either living or imaginary. Those don't count. So there's 6 schools that don't have one of those. They have something else as a mascot. So I want to know who they are. So there you go. 6 of them. You got like an hour here to figure this out. So we'll do it at the end.
If I seem distant at any point, it's because
you're figuring it out. You're trying to figure it out. Going through all the teams.
Yeah, that's the first thing you have to do is you have to start like my first thought was like, oh, Stanford for sure. Then I'm like, wait a minute, that's a tree that's living. That doesn't count.
No.
That's tough.
No. And I didn't say they weren't living things. I said they were not a animal or human.
Oh, well, I have one.
There you go. You have one.
But we'll get to the rest.
They're not an animal or a human, right? Whether living or imaginary. I mean, real or imaginary. It doesn't matter. I mean, so if you had the unicorns as your mascot, that would be an imaginary creature, but it would be a living creature and it doesn't count.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
exactly. There you go. So there's 6. You have 5 more to go.
Okay.
All right.
I can do that.
You're on it. I knew it. It's not too terribly hard if you go through all the teams. There is one where you go, So, let's talk.
There's a tricky one in there, huh?
There is. I threw it. I mean, I'm not gonna make it easy.
Okay.
Let's talk about the WNBA playoffs. They started today. Minnesota played at Connecticut this evening, and Connecticut blew them out by 30. That was just ugly. But to be fair, only 4 of the 12 teams in the WNBA playoffs have winning records. So I feel like only 4 of the 12 teams in the whole conference have winning records. So only 4 of the 8 teams in the playoffs have winning records. So you're going to get in with a losing record and be no worse than the 5 seed, right?
Right.
Which is kind of where Minnesota fits in to this whole thing. Tonight, right now, Chicago and Las Vegas are playing, right? Game 1. Tomorrow night, Washington at New York and Atlanta at Dallas. Those are your 8 WNBA teams playing for the title. And for all intents and purposes, it should be New York and Las Vegas playing for the title, and barring something crazy. Connecticut could still be in there, I suppose.
I would say Connecticut could be a spoiler.
Yeah, that's a good team. But who knows? Also wanted to say that Breanna Stewart won the WNBA Player of the Year award by 1 vote over Asia Wilson.
A singular vote.
A singular vote. And you know what it was? You know the reason why? Because she doesn't wear 2 legs on her pants that she wears when she plays. Asia Wilson. If she'd both of them or none, I think she would have won. But the fact that she has 1 leg covered all the time is weird to me.
You're going to like this. So they don't make those that way.
Mm-hmm.
You have to cut them.
Sure.
So I always think that's funny. So it's either just a leg sleeve that goes up really high, or you actually have to cut it. Every time I see somebody wearing a single leg sleeve, I go, somebody pulled out scissors and just did that.
Right. Well, you'd think eventually somebody would make one like that, but you got to make 2 like that, right? With a right leg or a left leg, because it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's weird. I find it weird that you wear that. I don't know if it's necessary or if it's just a fashion statement, because there's also a left arm sleeve, like in this picture here. There's a left arm sleeve and a left leg covered.
Well, the left arm sleeve, I don't know why it would be the left. Is she left-handed?
I don't know the answer to that, but she's dribbling left-handed in this picture, so let's go with yes.
If she's left-handed, so whatever your shooting hand is, whichever hand does the final push, not the guide hand,
right?
You would wear a sleeve on that arm to prevent
warm.
friction coming through. Well, yeah, keeping it warm, but also to prevent friction coming through your shot. Right, it makes it smoother going against your jersey versus your skin, which can get sweaty and stick to it. So it just smoothens up that process. And I guess you could say the same thing would be true with wearing 1 leg sleeve or both leg sleeves. It doesn't really matter. It just decreases friction while running, I suppose.
Well, yeah, for me, I have big thighs. They would rub together, so yeah, I could get that. But I mean, I don't know. When I played basketball in high school, I got so sweaty that nothing was sticking to nothing.
That's right.
I mean, right?
Well, those are the only things I can think of. Now, I don't know how true any of that is.
Right. Okay.
But they say keeping them warm, but they're dry fit. Like they breathe like hell. It's not keeping your arm that warm.
Do you think that maybe the leg, what do you want to call that thing? I don't know. If you call it a leg sleeve or whatever, but it's a pair of tights with 1 leg cut off.
With 1 leg, yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like calling it a leg sleeve, which is counterintuitive, right?
Tight.
You don't call them a pant sleeve. You call it a pant leg.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't use the phrase sleeve on your legs.
She wears 1 pant leg. Okay, let's do that. Let's call it that. Do you think it's more fashion than function at this point because she started doing it and now she's got to do it because everyone's expecting her to look like that? Because she does it with her road uniforms, she does the home uniforms. It's she had to cut up at least 2 pairs of things.
I would guess that it's probably first of all, I doubt she's cutting it herself. I bet somebody.
Oh no!
I bet her equipment manager knows what she likes and cuts it for her.
She's a professional.
Yeah, no, it might even be cut like right on the seam and hemmed and everything.
Right.
But my guess is that it's probably just like you've done it once or twice and you had a good game.
It's superstition more.
So
than
you just kept doing it. Yeah.
It's like lucky underwear.
Yeah, Steph Curry didn't start wearing an arm sleeve until like 2014, 2015. So he used to never wear them, and then all of a sudden he did. LeBron James didn't wear an arm sleeve for a long time.
Yeah.
And then he wore a headband, and he didn't have any hair. It didn't make sense.
You got baseball players out there not changing their socks. I mean, that kind of thing.
Socks.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I mean, it's possible. Also, Sabrina Ionescu of the New York Liberty set a WNBA record for 3-point field goals made in a season with 128 in 36 games. That's 3.55 or something per game, which is pretty amazing. She even sat out a couple of games here because of a calf injury.
Yeah.
So I find that even more amazing. If you sit out a couple of games and you still set the record, that's pretty good.
You're doing something right.
You're doing something right. She also took a lot more 3-pointers than she has previously in her career, but she hit at a higher rate, like 44% from 3-point line. So that's if you're hitting 44% from 3-point line, do it. Keep shooting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty dang good. Anyway, so that's all the WNBA I want to talk about. But the current WNBA game, that's the one in progress. You got a score for that? Because I don't have it up here, but I'm just.
Oh no, I did not have it up.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, it was. The second goal was boring.
The Aces are leading the Sky 20-12. Sky, one of those teams at 18-22 for the season and made the playoffs. I don't know why we do that. I mean, I feel like if you're not 500, you shouldn't be in any playoffs ever in any league. They'll just skip that team and the other team gets a bye. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What do you feel about teams with losing records in the playoffs?
I feel like it happens sometimes. It shouldn't, but your league's so small in terms of total teams.
Yeah.
Like you don't, in order to make a good competitive bracket that doesn't last like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You kind of have to include some of these other teams. So it can happen. It shouldn't. I don't love it, but when your league's that small, you kind of got to do what you got to do.
I mean, I get it. Let's talk about the Pac-12 for a minute as a conference. Washington State and Oregon State have filed a motion in court that granted a temporary injunction against the Pac-12 board having a meeting, saying, "Hey, we don't want them to have a meeting because we don't think any of the other schools that are leaving the Pac-12 should have a say in anything that goes on from here on out." Which they have precedent because the Pac-12 has before restricted voting rights of teams that were going to leave. So I don't see why they would. But anyway, a judge in Washington State granted that motion, so there's a temporary injunction in place. There'll be a bigger hearing about it later, but they're dealing with like basketball money that's going to be coming and all this stuff. And Washington State and Oregon State say we're the only two teams left. We should be able to decide where that goes.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with them. I think you're probably right.
I think they're 100% right.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see what happens in court. I don't know if anybody will fight it real hard, but I mean,
what's the point of fighting it? You're leaving.
It's money. That's why. Somebody's going to fight over the money.
Here's what I would say: if it doesn't impact your dollars this year,
then it doesn't matter.
Then who cares? Let them have all the votes. As long as they can't vote on anything that changes this year. It can change stuff for next year. Just can't change anything for the season that we are already in. We've already started. We're already on our way to it. Like, just start making all your votes for the next. You can start admitting members for next year based on your 2 votes, that sort of thing. Like, go for it, but just don't. You can't change anything for this year, and you can't mess with anybody's money for this year, because nobody's messing with your money for this year.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like it's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if there's any kind of pushback or whatnot. And then will the Pac-12 stay as a conference? Do you think the Pac-12 would add teams to make a conference, or do you think that the other 2 teams just leave and the Pac-12 will just end?
To me, it sounds like they're trying to stay a conference.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the most logical way to do that is to take the Mountain West, incorporate them into yours, rename. You're still the Pac-12 in terms of core. You're still the Pac-12 in terms of infrastructure.
Right.
But now you're called the Pac-West, and you feature all of those Midwest teams. And honestly, Oregon State's going to crush that division year in, year out. So with the way they're playing lately, they'll be just fine. But I think that's the way you do that and stay alive. Elsewise, they need to find a conference, man.
Do you think next year it'll be referred to as Power 4? That's, you know what I mean? We've already referred to it as Power 5 for how long now? Will it be a Power 4 and Group of 6? Group of 5.
I would say no. If they do that merger and it's Pac West or whatever they call it, they just keep calling it the Pac-12 and then just those teams. If they do that merger, it will still be Power 5. it'll basically be a power 4 and their +1, but it's power 5. It's going to stay the name.
Well, but those other teams, those other conferences aren't going to want that winner guaranteed a spot in anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that'll be interesting to read that too.
That's a good point. They might argue that in committee votes and things like that.
Right.
It's like, well, their conference,
Right. The conference sucks. We didn't, I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch what happens. But Oregon State and Washington State still could get swallowed up by somebody.
Right.
The Big 12, I mean, I don't know. But I doubt it will be the Big 10. But, hey, the ACC was willing to take Stanford and Cal, I think just to raise their GPA. But what do I know? That's kind of what it feels like. Am I wrong?
It definitely feels like that.
Look at it. We have the smartest conference in the country because we got Duke and Stanford and Cal.
And Cal, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's huge for them.
Yeah. Let's talk about Pac-12 football. The Pac-12 is now 21-4 through 2 weeks this season. And the 4 losses weren't bad. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Cal to Auburn was one of them in conference. USC versus Stanford, so somebody had to lose.
Yeah, 14-10 Auburn beat Cal. Oklahoma State beat Arizona State 27-15.
Yep.
And Arizona lost to Mississippi State 31-24 on the road.
On the road, yeah.
Which isn't a bad loss. I mean, that's not a disgrace of any kind. None of the teams have got blown out, so that's really, really good. The Pac-12 is going out with a bang, I guess. That's the best way to put it. Anyway, so you had Oregon on the road in Lubbock, Texas, playing Texas Tech and former Oregon quarterback Tyler Shook, who, by the way, had he not thrown 3 interceptions, I would vote for him for NCAA Offensive Player of the Week.
I would agree.
282 yards passing and 3 touchdowns. He ran for 101 yards and another touchdown. So he counted for 4 touchdowns, but he'll be remembered for the interception late in the game that ran back for a touchdown that sealed the victory. Oregon was lackluster through 3 quarters. Let's just call it that. I guess that's the best way I can put it. 18 points through 3 quarters, and they scored 20 in the 4th quarter, to include the interception return for a touchdown. But when they needed it, Bo Nix delivered.
Right.
Yeah. So
I would say they were lackluster through 2. The 2nd quarter and the 3rd quarter, they had 3 points. They had 15 in the 1st, 20 in the 4th, but just 3 points between the 2nd and 3rd. I'd say that's where they were. Right. They were lackluster through 2 because in the 4th quarter they lit it up, and in the 1st quarter you had that real deep bomb.
Yeah.
To with 2 plays, 75 yards, and he hits Troy Franklin for 72. Like they were electric in the 1st quarter. And then they had a touchdown on their next possession too. The long sustained drive hit Tez Johnson.
Yep.
So, and then Patrick Herbert threw it to Terrence Ferguson for the 2 points.
For the 2-point conversion. Yeah.
What?
I know, right?
First quarter was exciting.
Yeah, it was, and it was good. Tyler Shook also fumbled a football too. He fumbled twice, but he lost one of them.
Right.
Yeah, so he did turn the ball over 4 times officially. Yeah, he was great and bad at the same time. Texas Tech stopped Oregon from running. 113 yards on 31 carries. That's 3.6 yards a carry. They stopped. I mean, Bo Nix had 5.1 yards a carry, but Bucky Irving and Noah Whittington combined were like 3.4, 3.3.
Right.
There was not much there. They didn't look great. And Oregon only ran it 31 times because they were trailing or whatever, or maybe they just realized they couldn't run it. I don't know, but
start doing some other things. Yeah.
Yeah, it was if you're a Duck fan, that game was how you wanted it to end, but not how you wanted it to go during the game. It was very nerve-wracking. It was very much one of those things where I go, oh man, they're going to screw this up. And I felt like they were going to screw it up just all along, that there was going to be a way they were going to snatch defeat. They kept take the lead, but then they gave it back, and I was like, oh, come on, man. But
there was a drive in there early in the 3rd quarter that was when I went, we're going to lose this game. And it was like it wasn't our first drive of the 3rd quarter, I don't think. It was our 2nd drive of the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, they turned it over on downs.
Yeah, well, we on 1st and 10, Bo Nix ran for 9 yards to the Texas Tech 20 or to 17-yard line. Yep. And then on 2nd and 1, Noah Whittington, nothing. On 3rd and 1, Noah Whittington, nothing. On 4th and 1, Bo Nix, nothing.
Yeah.
Like, why are we not running? So to start that drive off, Bucky Irving ran for 4 yards, and then he had a loss of 1, and then Bo Nix ran for 16, and then Bo Nix had a pass. I don't understand why they keep taking Bucky Irving out. They try this committee thing, and sometimes people disappear at times, and I'm like, there is clearly a leader in this room right now. Why are we not leaning on them?
Right.
So, but they didn't lose, so yeah.
No, they didn't.
I guess that's good.
I mean, it is good. I mean, it was, yeah. I mean, what did you take away from this? Do you feel better about Oregon? I mean, it was a tough game. They didn't play their best. They played on the road, and Texas Tech is supposed to be one of the top 4 teams in the Big 12, although they're 0-2 now. So it is a good road win. The 20-point fourth quarter comeback was nice. It was good to see them step up and realize, hey, we're better than this team. Let's just go win this game. There's a lot of things to like, but there was a lot of things to go, ugh, you know?
Yeah, there's tons of it. The big takeaways are you can win when you have to, right? You can win even when you shoot yourself in the foot, right? That's a huge positive thing. It's also great to know that Bo Nix can still run the ball.
Yeah, because he hadn't. Yet.
He didn't through the first 2 quarters of that game either. It was like, what is happening here? It's good to know. So Tyler Shuck ran for 101 yards, right? Yeah. And he threw for 282.
Yeah.
But he still only had a 64.3 QBR, and that's because he threw 3 picks. He threw a lot of underneath stuff. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't his doing per se. That was somebody else did. But it was good to know that we can stand in there despite the fact that he's chewing us up in the run. We're like, nah, he's not going to score touchdowns on us with his legs. And I think he did get one, but he's not going to score a ton of touchdowns on us with his legs. We're going to make him score them on us through the air, and then through the air we will take it away, which they did 3 times.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, that was.
You don't want to give up, 383 yards to one guy.
right.
Both on the ground and in the air.
Yeah,
but
that was bad. But
by the same token, they gave up 390 something yards to Bo Nix alone.
It's true.
So
it's true.
Yeah, you didn't love it, but it's on the road. It's a revenge game for Tyler Shuck. The Ducks are coming off an easy win, so not a lot of testing there. Bo Nix only played a half of football so far this season.
Right.
You're happy with the outcome.
And Oregon plays Hawaii next, by the way.
So now you take some of those lessons from the last game. You absolutely beat the tar out of Hawaii and take out your frustrations with your performance on them, and you get level-headed in time for Colorado.
I was going to say, as long as you're not looking ahead, as long as that's not a trap game.
I'm telling you, though, the Ducks having turnovers through the air, because I think we had a couple interceptions in the first game against PSU, and then we had 3 interceptions in this game. The Ducks being able to get turnovers through the air
is a big deal.
Is a big deal when you play a team like Colorado that doesn't have a run game right now.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
So that's going to be huge.
The ability to get pressure on a quarterback, super huge, especially Sanders.
How many times did we sack their quarterback? 4. We sacked him 4 times.
Yeah. So yeah, they don't have like the NFL does. NFL has quarterback hits. How many times you hit the quarterback as a stat, but
pressures
they don't
and
have
like that. Yeah.
But that's okay. Yeah, I mean 4 sacks is 4 sacks. Bo Nix was sacked 1 time. So
which is good, because I'd be willing to bet that pure size wise, Texas Tech has got to be competing with Oregon on the line. Like,
sure.
In-state recruiting alone, you're going to pull 300 pounders.
Yeah.
So I'd be willing to. That's a good sign, knowing that they couldn't. That Bo Nix is pretty well protected, and who knows with that one, because I can't remember it. He could have been he held onto the ball too long. It could have been he danced around and just got out of the pocket and got hit. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. So, if they can shore up some things, because they were penalized like a mother in this game.
That was the bad part.
Right. They got to shore that up, because that was awful. I mean, there's no other way to say it. So Oregon had 14 penalties for 124 yards. To Texas 6 penalties. So, yeah. But to be fair,
they threw 3 pass interference flags on us that I didn't understand.
Yeah,
like there was some, but then they also threw, I think, there were 2 of them that I didn't understand. I think one of them I was like, oh, yeah, he's all over him.
Yeah, it was not a brilliant day. But it was a good win. I think in the end you're going to say, okay, this is a good win against a Power 5 team in a good conference. This is a good win on the road. Any road win is a good win. So going back home to play Hawaii, and then they get Colorado. Is it at home? It's at home, right?
Colorado's at home.
Colorado's at home. Yeah, that's going to be a big deal. That's going to be a big game. So we're looking forward to that.
I'm curious to know if they're going to get
Game day.
Game day.
They may. They may. I think the game straight now is scheduled to be on ABC.
It's on ABC.
Yeah.
But Colorado has game day this weekend, so I wonder if they do Colorado back-to-back weeks.
I doubt it, but in Eugene, I guess. Maybe.
But see, that was my logic. It's like, okay, well, it's in a different place. Maybe they'd be okay with that.
Well,
because that's if the Ducks win this weekend and somebody loses, we could be sitting. I mean, we didn't get any credit for this win, which is the only thing that bothers me.
Well,
we were 13th and we didn't move at all.
Well, we're going to talk about the rankings here in a little bit, but there's a reason for that. We'll talk about that. But let's talk about the rest of the Pac-12 while we're talking about it. Beavers win, right? Oregon State moves to 2-0 with a 55-7 win over Cal Davis. Now, UC Davis is not the biggest program in FCS, but they're a very, very efficient offensive program. They're a very good offensive program, and they were held to 7 points. Oregon State looks like a really good football team. I don't know. We're going to know more about them here in a little bit, but it was a good win for Oregon State. I mean, I don't know much more I can say about that. You got
you did your job.
Yeah.
Like, these are the teams you're supposed to beat when you're a good team.
Right.
So beat them.
Yeah.
That's it. Go out there, get your guys out by the end of the third quarter, and just go home.
Right.
And take away from what you can take away from. Don't get hurt.
Right.
And they did exactly that. And that's the hallmark of a good team is winning games when the odds are against you, winning games you shouldn't, and absolutely winning games you should.
Right. And not getting anyone hurt.
And not getting anyone hurt in the process. So I think I think there isn't many lessons to take away from the Oregon State game. You just kind of go, all right, they did exactly what they should have done if they're a good team.
Other ranked Pac-12 games, Washington 43, Tulsa 10. That was exactly the same kind of thing. Tulsa's not exactly a barn burner, but Michael Penix is a good player. He is a good quarterback.
He's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I don't know that you could. There's 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the Pac-12. You could just go, yeah, he's the best quarterback in the Pac-12 at any given time. You go, okay, probably. You know what I mean? Yeah, and Penix has been fantastic since he came over from Indiana. So, I don't know. That was. Well, I'm trying to get to his stats. I didn't have it pulled up. Why didn't I have it? I had it, but then it went away. 409 yards, 3 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But there was no doubt in this game Washington was the better team. So that was an easy win for the Huskies. And then we also had Utah. Utah beat Baylor ugly, 20-13 at Baylor. It's a good, like I said, a road win is a good win, but this game was ugly and they needed 14 fourth quarter points to overcome the 13-6 deficit. They're without Cameron Rising. Utah looks pedestrian. I guess let's say that.
Yeah, their defense looks great though.
Their defense is really good.
Defense is really good, and that's what's keeping them afloat right now. Their offense looks uninspired.
It does,
but they keep goofing around with the quarterback situation.
Yeah, I don't understand why they just don't settle on one.
Like I understand you got Nate Johnson and Bryson Barnes. Bryson Barnes is not the guy.
He's not the guy.
He's not the guy. He had no business. I think he started that game.
He did. In this game, he was 6 of 19 for 71 yards, 1 interception with a QBR of 8.9.
Yeah, he is not the guy. And I don't think in the last game he blew anybody's socks off in that one either. So I think you play Nate Johnson until Cam Rising's back. I think it's a simple solution to that easy problem.
Jaquindon Jackson, 19 carries, 129 yards for Utah in this one, but it was Jalen Glover and Nate Johnson.
They can run the ball. God dang.
Johnson ran for a touchdown. Jalen Glover ran for a touchdown. 224 yards on the ground for Utah. That's what won the game. But able to control it late in the game too. That was important. But Utah didn't record a sack. That was weird, right? I mean, it was an odd game. I don't know.
Baylor might have kind of a stout front. Like it is, like I said earlier about Texas Tech. Like in-house recruiting alone, like from the state of Texas, you're going to get some big boys.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not going to put too much into them not getting a sack, but yeah, with as good as their defense is, you'd think they would have gotten something.
Right. Washington State, 31-22 over number 19 Wisconsin. That was a good win. This is the second year in a row Washington State has beaten Wisconsin. Last year in Madison, this year at home in Pullman. Washington State's 2-0 and ranked now because of it. I don't know if they're that good. I can't tell you, but they did enough and jetted out to a 24-9 halftime lead, and then scored late to make sure that they sealed it. I think Washington State is one of those dangerous football teams. If you're not ready for Washington State, they're going to beat you, and that's Cameron Ward is dynamic, right?
He's not as good a clean passer as Penix or Nix or Williams or even Rising for that matter.
Right.
But he's much more mobile than all of those guys. And that's saying something because Michael Penix is really mobile.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's going to be an interesting Pac-12 season, I think, when we get down to it. There's a lot of teams
it's going to be tight.
It's either going to be cannibalistic where everybody beats each other and everybody has one or two losses, which could suck in the terms of a playoff, or someone's going to emerge as that team. We just don't know yet because I really don't know. I know USC is very good. I know that.
Yes.
I know that Washington is very good. I know Oregon is good. I know that Utah with Cameron Rising is good. I know Washington State can be good. Oregon State can be good. UCLA has the ability to be very good. Those are going to be interesting. I mean, there's 6 or 7 teams that could be battling it out, and we won't know until they play each other. But
yeah,
it's coming. It's coming fast. Coming to your neighborhood here soon. What else? Colorado, who gets all of the press and publicity, beat Nebraska, 36-14. Yeah, I don't think this was as good a win as everyone thinks it was, and Colorado now ranked because of it. But I don't think it was I didn't look at it and go, wow, Colorado was dominant. I looked at it like, this is Nebraska. And Nebraska, I know, isn't very good. They weren't good last year. They weren't good this year. They lost the first game to Minnesota and only scored 10 points. This is not a team that can score a whole bunch of points. So all you needed was 20, right? I mean, roughly, because Nebraska just can't do anything. There were a lot of mistakes in this game by Colorado. Not mistakes that hurt them, just mistakes that you could see they blew some opportunities. I still don't trust that Sanders is a great scrambling quarterback. If you get him on the move, he doesn't make great decisions. He does some stupid things, forces the ball downfield, thinks that his receivers are always going to come up with it. That's going to hurt him against a team that has a good secondary that can take the ball away, like you were mentioning Oregon earlier, or somebody like USC who has athletes in the backfield. It's going to be interesting to see, but we'll know more. They're going to play Colorado State next, and they're going to beat Colorado State. And then, and then they're going to play at Oregon, and it's going to be a massive, hey, this is for control of the Pac-12 kind of a deal. But
I'm in a unique position with Colorado because every day when I drive to work, I get to listen to local sports radio. All right. And the main sports channel here is Altitude Sports Radio because they are owned by KSE. They are the main people for the Rapids, the Nuggets, the Avalanche. And of course, they talk about all the other local sports too. These people, these media members, a month ago were the most skeptical people on earth. Today I'm driving to work and they're saying, what's to stop this team from winning a national title this year? Seriously. And I'm like, are you kidding me? 2 games. You go through 2 games. They said, one of the guys said, Shedeur Sanders is practically a lock for the Heisman with the amount of coverage he's getting and the way he's playing. And I'm like, 2 games.
Yeah.
Like, let's all take a step back.
Yeah.
And it's not their fault entirely because ESPN
is buying
and Fox is just pouring that Kool-Aid down their throats. It's pretty heavy-handed.
Yeah, there's a lot of publicity, and everyone's Pat McAfee is saying Shedeur Sanders should be the number 3 pick in the NFL draft. Give me a break. Give me a freaking break.
Let me see him routinely make 15 to 20-yard throws.
Well,
routinely.
I don't trust a whole lot that the punter has to say, but that's okay. I like Pat McAfee, don't get me wrong. But when the punter starts being your expert, hey, I punted for a living. Okay, but I know the NFL and I know the college football. Do you though? You played once. You played what, 6 snaps a game for maybe less.
Yeah.
Maybe you were the holder, so maybe 10. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I'm not going to put stock in Colorado as much as I would put stock in, say, Texas, who we'll talk about here in a minute.
Yeah.
But anyway, also
I would say that it seems like they're doing, like, I said this first time I watched them against TCU, is like, this reminds me of like 2010 Oregon teams. Like, it's a lot of underneath stuff to open up over the top stuff.
Right.
Darren Thomas was more mobile than Shadur Sanders is, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And Oregon could run the ball, was the difference. Like, 2010 Oregon team could run the hell out of the football.
Right.
But they're running a lot of similar schemes.
And they are. Also, UCLA 35-10 over San Diego State. We already mentioned the losses that the Pac-12 had, which were not bad losses, but UCLA is 2-0 and now ranked. We'll talk about the rankings here in a minute. But the rest of college football scores, is Texas back? That's going to be the very first question, right? Is Texas back? Quinn Ewers, 349 yards and 3 touchdowns at Tuscaloosa in a 34-24 win. And what it isn't the victory, and it isn't even a 10-point victory. It was the fact that I never felt like Alabama was going to win this football game. You felt like Texas was in control of this game, even when they fell behind. They fell behind 16-13 in the third quarter. I still did not believe Alabama was the better football team at any point.
Yeah, it just felt like Texas was just kind of working them, and you, when things weren't going Texas's way, you didn't think, well, that's because Alabama's stopping them. You thought that's because Texas just did something wrong.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're right. It was an uncomfortable position because I've never really watched an Alabama game and been like, they're definitely not the better team.
And I will tell you this, and we'll be honest. So Alabama ran for 107 yards, Texas 105. The difference came down to the quarterback position. Quinn Ewers was good. He was a very good, efficient quarterback, and he made no mistakes at quarterback. Jalen Milroe made mistakes at quarterback, despite the fact that Kirk Herbstreit was trying to tell me how great a deep ball thrower he was. He threw 2 interceptions. Yeah. I mean, they kept throwing that out there all game long, and it's ESPN's job to pump up the SEC and make sure that we know that the SEC is the best team in college, or the best conference in college football. They were not tonight, or on Saturday. They were not. They were not that night.
They definitely were not.
No.
They seemed underwhelming, and Texas seemed really good, but it's still Texas. I'm waiting to see what happens.
It's still Texas. Will the letdown happen next week? Because
I will reserve judgment.
Right. I will too, but you know who they play next week?
Who?
Wyoming.
Oh, well, they should.
Who already beat Texas Tech. So
are they looking for the full state of Texas bingo
right,
card?
The Texas, yeah, you got to play like 6 more teams, but if Wyoming manages to pull that where they beat Texas Tech and Texas in the same season, holy moly. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's in Austin. So I doubt that, but because playing in Wyoming is a whole different animal. If you've never been to Laramie, Wyoming, where the wind whips across the plains, as they say, and it does. I mean, it is windy. It can be cold. It can be hot. It's dusty. It's a different animal.
I've been to the hometown of the University of Wyoming.
Yeah,
it's pretty much trash.
I mean, the town's not that great, right? I mean,
Oh, the campus isn't great. The town isn't great. Did I tell you my story about stopping there and everyone was in the weird outfits?
No.
All right, real quick side note. So on our drive here to Denver, me and Austin and Cassie, we stopped in Laramie. That's where we stayed the night.
Yeah.
At the one hotel in Laramie, and
there's like 3.
Austin and I were like, hey, let's, Cassie was tired. She wanted to go to bed. And Austin was like, let's go downtown and find a bar.
Yeah.
And go a college bar or whatever. So we go downtown, and it was the day of their spring game.
Okay.
So we go downtown, and apparently every spring they have this event called the White Trash Bash.
Oh, God.
And so everyone dresses up in like overalls and like, jean shorts and cowboy boots. Like, just think like the most rednecky look you can. And so Austin and I are in this bar, and this group of about 15 guys come in, and they're all in these outfits. And I look at Austin, and I go, where the hell are we?
Right?
Because I didn't know this event was going on. And so we left that bar, and we're walking down the street, and we're seeing all these people in these terrible outfits. I'm like, is this just how they dress in Laramie?
I mean, it might be.
Eventually, we went to another bar called the Black and Gold Pub, and they or Black and Gold, something like that, yeah. And they were like, "Oh no, this is not normal."
Oh, okay.
They were like, "This is an event for this weekend."
Just an event going on.
Yeah, every year during the spring game, they do this thing called the White Trash Bash.
Wow.
So when I said the city's trash, it had multiple meanings.
I guess, yeah. Interesting. It was. I've been there and spent the night, and we actually drove around and drove by the stadium and the college and all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting. I mean, it's if you like isolation and being, in a rural setting, that's fantastic. Yeah. I mean, for that. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful area. I love Wyoming. I liked driving through Wyoming. I think it's absolutely gorgeous, but it is very desolate in places. So yeah, it's interesting. And it's windy all the time. Just FYI. Yeah. How about the University of Miami? Is the University of Miami back? Or is this like we talk about every single year in that Texas A&M's overrated?
Texas A&M is overrated.
Miami
every single year.
Period. Miami 48-33 over number 23 Texas A&M. It was nice to watch two ranked SEC teams go down on a Saturday as an SEC hater, which I am. I'll admit that.
Yeah.
And Tulane should have beat Ole Miss. It ended up being a 17-point win for Ole Miss, but Tulane blew a lot of good opportunities to win. They did some stupid things. They're not used to being in that position, I don't think. But that was
winning is hard.
Winning is not. It's not as easy as losing. It's not. It doesn't take much skill to lose. There were a lot of teams that struggled. We'll talk some more here. So North Carolina being one of those. North Carolina struggled with Appalachian State. Not that Appalachian State's bad. Appalachian State beat North Carolina last year. North Carolina beat them in 2 overtimes in Chapel Hill this year, 40-34. There was a little controversy in that game, but I'm not going to talk about that. But that was a struggle for North Carolina, right? Against a team that you'd think they should be better than. There was more in Tennessee. Tennessee played Austin Peay. We lived in Clarksville, Tennessee. We know Austin Peay. I do like the 931 on the helmet, by the way.
I said this to Cassie. I hated their uniforms. They overbranded. The 931 on the helmet is cool. It needs to be a little smaller, and then you don't need to have the giant Tennessee state flag logo on the other side. They just had too much going on with their jerseys.
This was their big time opportunity to show how good they were. And they did that. I'm going to be honest with you. And if you're a Tennessee fan, if you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan, I know what you're going to say. It was those uniforms, which it might have been. Because the last,
I don't think any Tennessee Volunteer fan is saying that.
Oh, absolutely.
Unless they're 55 plus.
They did it when they wore the all black ones on that Halloween. They wore all black ones, and everybody lost their freaking mind. Like that was the worst thing they'd ever done.
What you're talking about is when they played South Carolina back 2011 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone lost their mind. Why? It was the first time they had changed away from white or orange.
Right.
Ever.
And I get it, but it's still
ever. Since then, they've done it like 17 times.
So they should be ready for it now, right?
What I'm saying is people aren't blaming it anymore because they've won plenty of times in alternate uniforms. The smoky gray helmets are actually this. I think this
the gray.
First game that they had lost in.
I like the gray helmets. I will tell you this: I don't like those uniforms.
I didn't like the jerseys. I thought they were a little tacky. The orange block on the shoulders was just strange.
I don't know.
I get that they're honoring the first, because it's a kind of a mock-up of a jersey style they wore way back when the first black quarterback played in the SEC. So
yeah, and I get, and I understand those things. It's just these looked ugly. If you took those pants and that helmet, and you used the basic color on the jerseys, but just put a couple of orange stripes on the shoulder instead of that block, it would have looked fantastic. It actually would have looked very good. But anyway,
I also think they need to stay away from gray. I think it should be black.
Black. Yeah, black.
Yeah, I think black would have looked better than the gray.
Anyway, they struggled with Austin Peay. It was 13-6 at halftime. The number 9 team in the country is struggling. But it is what it is. There was, like I said, there was a lot of teams struggling. Michigan won 35-7 over UNLV. They didn't struggle. Yeah. Ohio State won 35-7 over Youngstown State. And while I would go out on a limb and say that both Michigan and Ohio State should have won by more over those teams, so it wasn't impressive, but they did what they needed to do, and that was win at home. Penn State did not struggle, 63-7 over Delaware. It's Delaware. I get it. That's an FCS school too, regardless of their helmets looking like Michigan's. This was probably a Michigan warm-up for Penn State, I'm guessing, because the team looks like Michigan. You had that Tulane Ole Miss game, which was frustrating. I wanted Tulane to win, and I like those Tulane uniforms with the powder blue and the green. I think those are fantastic. There's a lot of powder blue in this game with Ole Miss too. So it was very colorful, but Tulane found a way to just not win, I guess, more than anything. They just, I don't know. It was there for them at some point, right? The score was what, 17-17 going into the fourth quarter.
And they were in the game, yeah.
Yeah, they were there. They just couldn't complete it. Anyway, not a big deal. Also, Oklahoma struggled with SMU. Not a huge struggle, 28-11. But it was never really, you never felt like Oklahoma was dominating the football game. I don't know if you watched any of it. I didn't see any of the football game. I saw the highlights, but just watching
I most definitely did not watch it. No.
Just watching it's 14-11 Oklahoma with 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So they scored twice late. They won at 28-11. It looks like a bigger deal than it was, but it was closer than it should have been. I mean, SMU might be a good football team, but I don't think so.
They're that good.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, there was a lot of that going on. So that's college football poll now, right? This is week 3. The top 3, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State. Texas moved up in the AP poll from 11 to 4. They moved up in the coaches poll only 4 spots. Why there's a big disparity, I don't know. But then you pick Ohio State and USC, Penn State, all those teams, Washington. Notre Dame keeps getting credit. They struggled with North Carolina State for a while, ended up winning by 3 touchdowns. Alabama fell, but again, not super far, 7 spots to number 10. You have Tennessee now, who fell a couple spots because of their struggle, I think. But all those teams were still ahead of Oregon, and nobody fell behind them. So Oregon remains at 13. Utah remains at 12, right? LSU remains at 14. Kansas State at 15. That all remained unchanged. And then Oregon State at 16. So nobody moved in the middle. What you did have was Ole Miss got credit for beating a Tulane team that probably shouldn't have been ranked and moved up 3 spots. Colorado got credit for beating Nebraska and moved up to 18th. I don't know why they got credit for beating Nebraska. Oklahoma fell a spot. Like I said, they struggled. North Carolina fell 3 spots. They struggled. Duke is in the poll at 21, and rightfully so. They stayed where they were. But the new teams in the poll, Miami, Washington State, UCLA, and Iowa. Somebody tell me why Iowa's in that poll. I know
well, because Iowa has always had a defense.
Yeah, but
they have an offense now.
They're only going to win 9 games, and everyone knows that.
I mean, I am not going to agree with that statement because their defense gives everyone trouble. The problem was they just couldn't score.
Yeah.
And you can't stop someone all game. So when they were losing games, I mean, I don't know exactly what their losses to those big teams were last year, what they looked like, but my guess is that now that they're scoring a little bit, they're going to be kind of there. I mean, they lost 54-10 to Ohio State last year.
Yeah, they
got worked by them. Yeah. Michigan was 27-14.
Every other game was fairly close that they lost.
Yeah. They're all of their losses 10-7, 27-14, 9-6, 24-17. They're in them, and now they're going to be, now that they can score 20 points a game, pretty much locked it seems. Half of those turn into wins.
Did you know that Brian Ferentz, who's Kirk Ferentz's son, he's the offensive coordinator for Iowa. He's got a thing in his contract that says they need to score a certain amount of points this year, and he gets a bonus. They're currently below average. I mean, they beat Utah State 24-14. They beat Iowa 20-13. Iowa State, sorry, 20-13. But they need to score at least 25 points a game, and they're not. Yeah. They haven't done it yet. They might do it against Western Michigan, but then the schedule gets significantly harder. Now, that being said, Iowa's only ranked team on their schedule is Penn State. So,
really?
Yep, they play at Penn State, but they do not play Ohio State. They do not play Michigan.
Huh.
Right?
It could happen.
So it could happen. I mean, they could be the team. And to be honest, they play 4 straight home. Well, 3 of them are home. One of them is a neutral site. Iowa and Northwestern is going to be played in. I think in Chicago, but not at Northwestern. But they play 4 straight home games at the end of the season too, before they play at Nebraska. So their schedule sets up nicely. The last 5 games of the season are Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers, Illinois, and Nebraska. Wow. So if they could survive and if they could manage to knock off a Penn State, they could be unbeaten by the end of the season.
It could happen.
I'm
not ruling out. Ohio State doesn't look super clean this year.
No.
Michigan actually does look pretty good. Penn State's always ripe to be beat at any point. So
Penn State's,
it could happen.
Penn State's offense is rolling at the moment. They played 2 cupcakes, but their offense is scoring 50-something points a game. That's pretty darn good against anybody. So
I will comment on their offense after they play someone.
Well, that's true, but I mean they're not like Iowa, who's only averaging 22 points a game against 2 teams. So
I mean, yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I just think it's just think it's too early to tell with them. But
right.
But either way, the two that you typically have to worry about are Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan still looks like they're going to beat everyone. Right. They're playing really well, but Ohio State looks susceptible.
They do. I'm okay with that. So let's look at what's going on this weekend in college football. You ready? This is what's happening this weekend. These are the top 25 and then some other Pac-12 games. Tomorrow night, Bethune-Cookman takes their show on the road to Miami for a slaughter. But Saturday's games, I'm looking at these games and I'm going, okay, what's the big draw here? Well, Tennessee, Florida, but Florida I don't think is very good. You have Washington at Michigan State, 2-0 teams, which is apparently on the Peacock Network for some reason. There's none of these games that I see when I look at them and think, oh man, that's must-see TV. Really? I mean, do you see anything in the schedule here that you go, wow, this is great? No, it's just gonna be.
And that happens. I mean, week 1 you had Colorado, TCU, you had Utah, Florida, but there's gonna be like 2 or 3 weeks like this throughout the season. Where you're gonna look around, you're gonna go, oh, Alabama's playing Vanderbilt, and Oregon's playing Cal, and it's like, just some weeks just kind of fall this way. I'd say Washington and Michigan State is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I'd say that's up there on my list. Tennessee and Florida is also interesting. And that's the best way to say it. They're interesting. They're not great. San Diego State at Oregon State. San Diego State
could be good.
They've got a little bit of an offense. Their quarterback last game threw for 445 yards.
Yeah.
So, maybe not. This might be a little better test. LSU, Mississippi State, if you want to stick in the SEC, but really, there's just not a lot.
And we'll know more about LSU
soon.
Yeah, soon. And
Georgia, South Carolina, actually. Spencer Rattler has been kind of going off.
Yeah. That one will be fun to watch. Yeah. That one, just because I think the SEC games, sometimes they're fantastic to watch, sometimes they're terrible games.
It's true.
Yeah. The rest of the Pac-12, Utah's playing Weber State at home. UCLA has North Carolina Central. Washington State plays Northern Colorado. Oregon's got hosting Hawaii. Colorado hosts Colorado State. Cal's playing Idaho. Stanford's playing Sacramento State. Arizona State, Fresno State might actually be a good game. Fresno State, I think, is probably better than Arizona State.
Yeah. So it's a who's who of games you should win.
And Arizona, Utah. I think the Pac-12 is going to look even better after another week. They're going to win all of these games. Or most.
Eight of our 12 teams are ranked.
Right, and 8 teams
that's
ranked.
Kind of wild.
Yeah, it's like the first time I've seen that in I don't know how long.
Well, it's the first time it's ever happened.
It's crazy. So
I got like a little update, like a little ESPN update that it was the first time that it ever happened for us. So that's kind of cool.
And I don't see that changing at the end of week 3. It'll be week 4 when you get to conference games when things will start to shake up.
I don't want to talk about it too much today, but week 4 there are 3 Pac-12 matchups that are to die for.
It's gonna be great. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the NFL real quick. We've already been on almost an hour, by the way. We haven't even talked about the NFL.
Let's get there.
We're working on it now, because that's what we do. So, where do we want to start with the NFL?
Let's go chronologically, right?
We can. So Detroit beat Kansas City 21-20. We can do that. I don't have the pictures in chronological order.
No, that's all right. We'll go with the way the pictures are.
Okay, so let's talk about the fact that Aaron Rodgers gets hurt in game 1. He played 50 seconds of game time before he tore his Achilles. And now, of course, all the NFLPA and all the players are up in arms, and we got to get rid of artificial turf because that's what caused the problem.
They're so stupid.
It's not
People
what caused the problem.
So freaking dumb with that stuff.
That did not cause the problem.
That being said, I tore my Achilles on artificial turf.
But the Jets defense looked really, really good in this.
Right.
Josh Allen did not look as good. He forced some balls downfield. And as I was reading one guy say, why does Josh Allen play like with such reckless abandon? You know what I mean? Because he does kind of try and force a football. He tries to run when he doesn't necessarily need to. He forces the game action. And sometimes it's to his detriment, like it was on Monday night. 22-16 was the final score, and Xavier Gibson returns the punt for the touchdown in overtime. But Garrett Wilson's catch earlier in the game was ridiculous.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous catch. He's a really good player. Too bad he's going to have to.
He made a really good pass to himself.
Yeah, too bad he's going to have to catch passes from the backup quarterback the rest of the season. But yeah, then there's the bigger question. We didn't even talk about it tonight, but Aaron Rodgers at age 39 with a torn Achilles. He says he's going to be back. I shall rise again, right? Something like that. He posted. Dude, you're not. I don't know. That's hard to overcome when you're 39.
I would say this. Okay, so there's a whole host of things that you mentioned. I'm going to comment on one at a time. First of all, the playing surface thing, right?
Yeah.
There absolutely is evidence to support that injuries occur more often on turf, especially knee injuries being the big one. Right. However, the evidence is marginal. It's in favor of the idea that they're more dangerous, but it's marginal. And the reason why it's also tempered is because places that use turf are susceptible to weather.
Right.
So this is a great example. I mean, he tore his Achilles and the field was wet.
Right. And
that's why you have turf, because it's mush, and if a field becomes mush if you have regular grass in a place like that where it rains like that,
right?
It's kind of tough. So that's an interesting thing to think about. Number 2 with that is that you don't tear your Achilles based off the field.
Right. No,
that doesn't happen. People tear their Achilles going downstairs. Should we, ban stairs? Like, I'm confused. Like, it happens. Like, it's a freak accident. Tearing your Achilles is just a wild thing that happens. So it sucks. Number 2, Josh Allen needs to chill a little bit. But they also have to establish a decent run game.
Yeah, that's true.
This Buffalo team has not gone out and grabbed a rusher in Josh Allen's whole career. They've been kind of doing the Singletary, Cook, other guys committee thing, and they're all okay.
Okay, yeah.
But none of them are good. Buck up, give away a first or two, and go take a good running back and complete your offense, because you got receivers, you got a quarterback. I even think you got a tight end in Dawson Knox, but you need to be able to run the ball consistently. So go do that. And then that takes pressure off of Josh Allen, because they ran the ball for 97 yards on 22 attempts. That's 4.4 per, but it's not great. Josh Allen's carrying the load there at 6 per. So you got to be able to run the ball.
And am I wrong in saying that why is Dalvin Cook even playing when Breece Hall can rip off? I mean, to be fair,
Dalvin Cook averaged 2.5 in this one. He did not do great.
To be fair, one of those carries was 83 yards. But he still had 9 carries for 44. That's almost 5 yards a carry anyway. So, I feel like Dalvin Cook
didn't need him.
Was useless, really. I mean,
he is a very heavy weight.
Yeah, and they're
like
paying him a lot of money, right? Yeah.
And then Aaron Rodgers being old, I don't think it matters.
You don't think so?
I think that for you and me, when you think back to being 39, and I think ahead to being 39, I think it's an athletic ender for us, right? I'm 34, and I don't really want to go out and play after mine. Like I'm nervous too, but I also don't have access to these trainers and these doctors and these facilities, and I don't have a team that's sitting here going, man, we just paid the hell out of you. We need you to try and come back. So there's a little bit of that going on too. Yeah. I think he'll be back. Will he ever be the same? I don't know, but I think he'll be back. He's come back from knee injuries and been just fine recently.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, all 3 interceptions for the Jets were from Jordan Whitehead. Their defense had 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions.
We knew their defense was going to be mean.
Yeah, it's good.
I didn't think they were going to be 3 picks with one guy.
No, that's an aberration. I don't think that's the right thing.
A pick or 2 across 2 people, I could see it. But 3 picks from one dude, wow.
Right. And I had the wrong punter, by the way. Sam Martin's a punter for Buffalo.
Oh, Sam Martin.
Yeah, Morstead's the punter for the Jets.
Oh, you mixed him up.
And I think he was the punter for Buffalo at one point in time. I feel like he came from Buffalo. I don't know if that's true, but I feel. No.
Why do I feel like I remember him in a Carolina jersey?
New Orleans is where you would know him from. He was the punter in New Orleans for 11 seasons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then he was with the Jets, Atlanta, Miami, and the Jets again. So he's a veteran. What do they call it? Journeyman punter now?
I don't know if you call him a journeyman after he did a decade in one place.
But then he did 5 teams in 4 years. So.
Yeah, but that's just checking out the sites.
It's Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He's sightseeing. But no, see, Ryan Fitzpatrick was never the guy. He was always on the edge of being like, we might keep him, we might not.
Right.
Morstead was the guy for 11 years in one place. And now he's like, I want to see what Atlanta's like. I want to see what New York's like. I really like New York. Let's go back there.
It was a good win for the Jets. Let's just say
it was
that.
a good win.
It was a good win. Good solid win.
And he wasn't great, but Zach Wilson, posted an 81.4, rating.
Yeah.
He had a pretty decent day, all things considered. I mean, his QBR was low, but his overall rating was decent.
We'll see.
He got thrust into a situation. He was expected not to play this game.
We'll know more. We'll know more. They got to play some more games. We'll know more.
They have Dallas next week, so.
Right. The Los Angeles Chargers found a way to lose, which is defensively. They gave up 36 points to the Dolphins and lost 36-34. Tyreek Hill burned them for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns on 11 catches, and made Tua look amazing. 466 yards and 3 touchdowns. The Chargers are going to have to play defense at some point in time if they're going to want to win anything. They just don't do that. I mean, I thought Brandon Staley was a defensive coach. Came from a defensive coordinator position, but they just don't seem to have. I don't know if they're just spending all the money on offense. What's the deal? That their defense just isn't any good. Let's be honest. You can't win games. I mean, your offense put up 34 points. You should win an NFL game if your offense puts up 34 points.
I saw a graphic that said the Los Angeles Chargers have scored 96 points in their past 3 games, and they've lost all 3.
Oh. It's ridiculous, right?
It's because they've given up, 94 points. It's because they've given up 98 over those 3 games.
It's ridiculous.
Like at what
They're all
point,
close, but
and you can be as mad, and people can be as mad at Herbert as he wants. He posted a 99.2 rating. He had an efficient day. He got sacked a couple times. Yeah, which is
they got to protect him.
Tua didn't get sacked once, so that's something to consider. But when I look across their defense, I see Derwin James. He's a talent. He always kind of shows up. I see Joey Bosa, who ever since he started getting injured has been questionable.
Less than.
I see Khalil Mack, and ever since he got to L.A., he's been less than Chicago Khalil Mack.
Right.
And then I look around at these other guys, and I'm like, okay, J.C. Jackson, he's all right. Sebastian Joseph Day, he's all right. Like, I see a whole bunch of these other guys I don't know. But I look over at Miami's side, and I go, Javon Holland is a stud. Jerome Baker's a stud. Xavier Howard's a stud. Bradley Chubb's a stud. Eli Apple could be better. He kind of is what he is. But, like, you see these superstars over there. Raekwon Davis is on that team. I forgot about him. I don't know what the Chargers are doing wrong. Right. But when you lose 3 games in a row while your team's scoring 30-something points a game, you have to take a big, deep inward look at your scheme.
Sure, and I agree
because it might not match your personnel.
Right.
you might be asking your guys to do too much man-on-man stuff. I mean, we had guys going one-on-one with Tyreek.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I don't even know why
there's
you do that.
There's nobody in this league who can.
There's no good reason for that.
Especially in any sort of deep field. Yeah, you're asking for trouble, and they asked and they received. So it should be easier than this.
Yeah, they're gonna have to do something. I don't know if it's via trade or whatever, but they gotta find something. And
well, if they lose another one like this, they'll fire a defensive coordinator, and then the only person left to fire will be the coach.
Well, the head coach. Yeah, that's true. It's a good point. So the Lions Thursday night beat the Chiefs 21-20. Is it too soon to overreact? Yeah, Travis Kelce was gone. I get
Chris
it.
Jones wasn't there.
Chris
either.
Jones wasn't there, but now has a new deal, right? To play.
Chris Jones and Travis Kelce will both be back this week.
Right, and we'll know more whether they're if that's affected them in any way or if Kelsey's 100% healthy. I mean, he's going to play regardless because he's that guy. But the Lions that's a good football team.
They're quality.
Don't discount that win just because of the injuries. I think that's a really good football team who lost a lot of close games last year, found a way to win this one in a close game. I like Jared Goff. They gave him so much grief in the Rams and they got rid of him. And he took him to a Super Bowl. Yeah, the next year he had a crappy season, and they just said, "Oh, we're going to find something else."
I guess we're done with you.
Yeah, we're done with you. Which is a "what have you done for me lately" kind of a deal because he's going to take the Lions places if they let him.
Right.
So they're better than we think they are. So I'm not saying this was this is going to propel them to the playoffs, but they are a better team than you think they are, and they're playing in that NFC North, which isn't exactly loaded with talent. So they're going to get some wins. I don't know.
I watched this whole game from start to finish. The few things that stood out to me, a few things that I wrote down were that Kansas City did not run the ball well. No. Outside of Patrick Mahomes and these breaking plays when coverage isn't looking, they did not run the ball very well. So that's something they have to step up, right? Just that right there. The second thing is they only got one sack, right? It's tough because Detroit didn't get any sacks, right? But it's Patrick Mahomes.
It's true.
He can move. Yeah. Jared Goff can't move.
No.
Why do you only have one? Well, it's because you don't have Chris Jones.
Right.
You don't have one of your big D-tacks absolutely causing disruption in the middle. And then they ran the ball pretty well,
Montgomery was serviceable. Gibbs averaged about 6.
I don't understand why Gibbs wasn't carrying the ball every play.
He will be eventually. He will be eventually.
Yeah. At this rate, he will be. This will do the same thing that just happened a few seconds ago. We were talking about another game why we didn't know why they kept flipping people out. It'll eventually Gibbs will be the guy. But they the Chiefs were winning this game at the halftime, right? 14-7.
Yeah.
So they had no reason to really panic or anything like that. But then Detroit came out and put up with 2 touchdowns in 2 quarters, and the Chiefs' drives all sputtered out. Detroit made the halftime defensive adjustment to shut this game down, especially once it got onto the other side of the 50. And it worked. I mean, Detroit looks solid. Their offense doesn't look as explosive from one game as they did from last year. Well, their defense looks like they definitely stepped forward.
Mahomes had 6 carries for 45 yards, right? That's 7.5 yards a carry. The rest of the team, 17 carries for 45 yards, which is less than 3.
Right.
So with the running game was non-existent, other than Patrick Mahomes, who was trying to he does what he does. He's kind of Mahomes reminds, if you're going to win a game against the Chiefs, it reminds me of playing basketball against like Jordan or LeBron. You kind of let them do what they do, or Kobe. Let them do what they do and shut the rest of the team down. If you can do that, you have a good chance to win.
It's true. Yeah. But then there's another element of this whole thing, which is the Chiefs should have had multiple catches for first downs or big gains that were just flat out uncontested dropped.
Yeah, and that's true.
That is unacceptable
in the NFL.
In the NFL. Like in college, you can do that. They're not going to pull your scholarship for having one bad game. You're getting paid a lot of money to be here.
Right.
And Patrick Mahomes is putting it on your numbers.
Right.
And you are dropping it and costing a game. Now, it's only one game in September. It's not a deal breaker for the whole season, and it's not even freaking AFC game. So it doesn't matter.
It won't really matter
much.
Right.
But damn, dude, like
We'll see.
Kadarius Toney's Tony, whatever you say his
Tony,
last
yeah,
name.
Kadarius
Yeah,
Toney.
Kadarius Toney's one more bad game away from being cut by this team.
Maybe it's
Like
true.
this
I
is
don't know.
not something they will stand by. They had a receiver a couple of years ago who had like 3 bad games in a row and they bounced him. And it was a draft pick. It was like a second or third round draft pick.
Yeah. Let's talk about Cleveland, Cincinnati. The Cleveland Browns came out and just shut down the Bengals, 24-3.
Yeah.
This game was raining. I mean, the whole Northeast, the whole north of the country and Northeast was all nasty. It was nasty weather. I get it. Joe Burrow is 14 of 31, 82 yards. That's 2.6 yards per attempt, by the way.
Yeah.
Two sacks with a rating of 52, a QBR of 20. He didn't look good. I mean, he never looked comfortable. He never looked like he was ready to play football. Their offense, their running game was 75 yards. The team had 140 yards of total offense, rushing and passing. That's not going to get it done. And with a team like Cleveland, and I know Cleveland's defense is good. You got Myles Garrett, and you've got a whole bunch of great players back there. That, I mean, I could go on and on. Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, there's a whole bunch of guys. Anyway, they're good. This is a good defensive football team. But you are one of the 2 years ago you're in the AFC, you're in the Super Bowl. Last year you're in the AFC Championship game, right? You're supposed to be one of the elite teams in the NFL, and you just looked awful. Just awful. Nick Chubb, 18 carries, 106 yards for Cleveland. Deshaun Watson was not dazzling by any stretch.
Yeah, he was pedestrian.
Yeah, he was okay.
Serviceable considering you were playing with the lead.
Right.
The second quarter off.
Yeah, and it was never really any. I mean, Cleveland only had 2 sacks. Okay, great, but they did get a couple of they picked up a fumble, and I don't know. It just was. It was one of those games. It just didn't look right. You know what I mean? Cincinnati just never looked right in this game. Not like we're used to seeing them do anyway. Jamar Chase, like 5 catches, 39 yards.
Yeah, it was weird to watch, and I only got to see a little bit of it. But do you remember when we did our NFL preview? Yeah. I told you that I got into an argument with Austin about the Bengals stepping back. And he was incredulous about how that could possibly happen. They almost went to the Super Bowl last year. And then they come out and lay this dud, and I just feel so validated.
And it was a dud. That's the only way.
I think the Bengals will be fine, but that in-division absolute dud opening weekend, ridiculous. How unprepared could you have been?
And the Browns fans have to be super happy. That's a division win, and you got it.
It's good,
Yeah, I mean, whatever. But yeah, Cleveland looked like way the better team, even though they weren't necessarily impressive.
They controlled the game.
Yes, right, exactly.
Once they took the lead with their first touchdown, they just controlled.
One more game we want to talk about here. I got a couple more games actually, but Green Bay scored 38 against the Bears to win 38-20 in Chicago. Jordan Love, 3 touchdown passes in his opener, 245 yards. There was a lot to like there.
There's a lot to like. Yeah.
A lot to like. He did, their offense looked like the same offense. It didn't look any different without. It didn't
look like it changed much. Yeah.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I mean, if you ever wanted a game that proves the point, like let your quarterback sit and learn.
Yeah.
This might, like, it's one game. It's overreaction. Wednesday.
Well, we're gonna do that in a minute.
But you sit there and you look at that and you go, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad.
We're not mad about that. If he does that every game, if he plays that efficient, he had a 123.2 rating.
Yeah, that's amazing, right?
Yeah, not bad. Yeah.
Chicago is Chicago. I mean, this is Justin Fields' team, and I just don't know that he's going to be an NFL quarterback in Chicago. Let me back that up. I think if he got to play somewhere else and was a backup quarterback for a while and got to learn a little bit of NFL instead of being thrust in like he did in Chicago, I think he'd be in a better situation.
I see this happen all the time where these guys go to school, they're stacked with talent.
Yeah.
And they put up numbers, they put up yardage. Colt McCoy is one of them, right? Like he did that. Who was the guy from Alabama right around that same time? Colt McCoy and AJ McCarron.
Yeah, AJ McCarron.
Right, put up massive
McElroy.
numbers. McElroy. Fields is another one of these guys. They go to a school that's stacked with talent. They
Yeah.
put up these crazy numbers,
Yeah.
and then they make it to the next level, and you realize that the only thing that they ever had was pure athleticism. They didn't have to be that talented because their receivers were.
Yeah.
Their line was.
That's true.
And when you're Ohio State, Justin Fields is this case, when
Yeah.
you're Ohio State and you play Illinois one week and Indiana the next week and Minnesota the next week, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, your defense takes care of a lot of it. Even if you make
Yeah.
a mistake, your defense will get the ball back, and yeah, you got great players around you that make plays. Even if you make a not the best pass, if you're throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
Like
Oh my
this
God,
year,
what a stud.
right? I mean, come on.
Yeah. So Justin
yeah.
Fields is an incredible athlete. I don't think sitting. I think when you get to the NFL, it exposes what you're missing, and I think what he's missing is true quarterback intuition because he's never had to struggle with it.
But what I'm getting, you're right. But what I'm saying is, you can learn that from watching another quarterback, from getting a guy who's a veteran. If you're sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, watching him play quarterback, listening to him in practice, watching his reads, you can learn some of those things. Justin Fields didn't get a chance to do any of that. They just thrust him onto a team that sucked, was last place, and here he is. Here's your savior. No, they've done that. You've seen time and time again in the NFL, guys get thrust into that position on a team that's crappy. And when they come on a mediocre team or better, it's different. But when you come on a crappy team...
Maybe he should have been worse in college.
That's true. He'd have got drafted by a good team.
My bad. You had to go out and compete for titles in college.
It is what it is.
And then your expectations are through the ceiling, you know?
Mean, he's...
What, you think Ben Roethlisberger had those expectations? You think Drew Brees had those expectations come? You think Jared Goff had those expectations coming out of Cal? No one was expecting him to come in and be a savior.
Right.
But they were for you because you put up numbers in college.
Yeah. What else we got? Your Denver Broncos lost a tough one to the Raiders.
Yeah, it was a little brutal.
Yeah, that game wasn't. I didn't get to see any of it. I have no idea, but I'm just sitting here looking at the box score and the game cast and all that stuff. And Russell Wilson, it's not on him. 27 of 34. His rating was 108.
He had the third highest QBR in the league.
Yeah, he was ahead of Jimmy Garoppolo, who won this game.
Yeah. But by 0.1.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't much, but it was
his
a little.
QBR was lower.
Yeah, but he didn't throw an interception. So,
throw a pick, yeah. He was efficient. He did exactly what we needed him to do.
Yeah, it's true. But his average per attempt is 5.2, which means they were throwing short balls. They were throwing the ball out quickly.
There was a lot of it, yeah. He was. I mean, they were trying to get him comfortable.
Yeah, and Jacoby Myers for the Raiders looked good. 9 catches, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Until the Broncos killed him.
Well, I mean, you got to do what you got to do when you're the Broncos.
Did you watch that highlight of him getting hit?
I did. Yeah, that was
a scary one.
That was vicious looking.
I'm not sold it was a flag. I think it was like just awkward timing, not necessarily you can't penalize it, but when you hit someone in the head, even if it is with your shoulder, like you're probably gonna get called for it, bud.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's more of the same for Denver, who lost a bunch of close games last year too. But 17-16, the Raiders, and the worst part is it's a division game, right? That's the worst kind of loss. You can open up the season with a loss, and it's against somebody in the other conference. It's not the end of the world. When you lose a division game right off the bat, you're already behind. You're basically behind 2 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you have to win that next one, and you have to make up a little ground from it. Yeah. So it's never a good feeling.
Jimmy G looked pretty good with a new team. I mean, he's not great, but the Raiders only rushed for 61 yards, so he did what he needed to do. It wasn't a great football game to watch in general. The Denver Broncos had no sacks, 0. Yeah. The Raiders had 2. So it wasn't exactly it wasn't like the defenses were awesome either. It was kind of a bunch of missed opportunities is what you kind of got out of this. And by the way, Marvin Mims Jr. for the Denver Broncos had 2 kick returns for 27.5 yards. I think he's the only player in the NFL who had 2 kick returns in a game so far this year.
Because everyone's just
because there's no kick returns. There's like none in the NFL anymore. He had 2. So,
I got a couple takeaways from this.
Yeah, what do you got?
And they're all super super important stuff. Number one, Russ looked fine.
Yeah.
But the most important thing when you look back at our total game, there was, I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There were 13 possessions in this game. The
Yep.
Broncos had 3 in the first half and 3 in the second half. We had 6 possessions.
Yeah.
Over an entire 60-minute game.
It was there.
Right?
I noticed that there was long. The possessions were long, all of them.
So, kind of to peel it back to last year, we lost opening weekend 17-16 to the Seahawks. We on 8 possessions. Right? So
Yeah.
these were the Broncos put together long sustained drives. We had 2 drives for touchdowns. We had a drive for a field goal. We had a missed field goal on one, which, I mean, to me doesn't impact the fact that we drove down there. That's just a missed field goal. It happens. And then 2 punts. So I'm going to call that missed field goal a successful drive in terms of getting into a scoring position, which means on 66% of our drives, we are getting to the other side of the field and putting ourselves in a scoring position. That to me is positive. That's a very positive deal. So I watched this game thinking, man, there's some, like, when are we getting the ball back? What's happening here? We had, 2 drives that were over 5.5 minutes or something like that. No, 3 drives that were 5.5 minutes. That's great stuff. But they were slow, ticky-tacky, just kind of working it down. You're talking about that 5-yard average that Russell Wilson had, just dumping everything off. Take what you can get, which isn't a bad deal. But at the end of the game, we needed our defense to step up, and this is a theme from last year.
If you
defense plays well all game, and then we need them at the final moments, and they don't.
If you want to know how close this game was, if you look at the team stats, there were 22 first downs for each team. Both teams were 5 of 11 on third down. Total yards was 261 for the Raiders to 260 for the Broncos.
It was
everything was just
right
identical,
there,
right? 10 penalties apiece, right? There was 1 turnover by Las Vegas, 1 interception, and none by the Broncos. Time of possession was in the Broncos' favor, but it was just one of those games that just seemed it was a weird week 1 game, and that they had the ball for long periods of time but didn't do anything with it.
Everyone's overreacting to thinking, oh, it's the same score as last year, same result as last year.
I would
it
too.
Sucks, but these games happen.
Yeah.
A good case in point here, right, is the Titans and the Saints, 15-16. The Vikings scored 17, right?
That's
the
true.
Bengals scored 3.
3, yeah.
Like the Bills scored 16.
There wasn't
Seahawks
a lot of
13.
offense.
Hit me with how you're so disastrous over those other teams.
Right.
No one else is. It's the Broncos. You're just comparing it.
There wasn't a ton of offense in the league. It
was
week
fairly
1.
outside of the Cowboys.
Yeah. So let's talk. So just quickly, the Niners 30-7 over the Steelers. The Steelers looked terrible. The Niners looked every bit like a Super Bowl team. Kenny Pickett had at one point. I'm watching this at work, right? It's first quarter somewhere along the line, and I come back and it says Kenny Pickett is whatever he is, 5 of 8 for 12 yards with an interception. And I was like, ooh,
wait, that's 5 of 8,
5 of 8, 12 yards, right? That's what I said.
5 completions for 12 yards.
That's what I said. And so then I come back, I go away and I'm doing stuff, and I come back and I look, and they put his stats up again, and now he's 8 of 15, or he's 7 of 15 or something like that, right? For 9 yards. And I was like, what just happened? He got sacked or something, right? Because sacks come off your passing yards in the NFL. Is that right? So something happened.
No, sacks come as a rushing yards.
So he threw a pass backwards or something. All I know is he went from 12 yards to 9 yards. And I was like, this is not going well. It was the second quarter at that point, and he's thrown for 9 yards. And I was like, this game, he ended up throwing for 232. Okay.
Well, he picked it up at some point, I guess.
But it was Christian McCaffrey, 22 carries, 152 yards, touchdown. Doing what Christian McCaffrey does. His 1 run for a touchdown was amazing. They looked every bit like a Super Bowl team. It's the Steelers, but it's week 1 on the road, and you win week 1 on the road convincingly, offense and defense both humming. And Brock Purdy, by the way, still unbeaten as an NFL starter. Any game he starts and finishes, they're 6-0. So I'm just saying.
Okay. A brief synopsis of this one drive that you're talking about.
Yeah.
1st and 10, short right for -5 yards.
That's what there it is.
Offensive holding.
And offensive holding. Yeah.
All right. Next play, incomplete. Next play, false start.
Yeah.
And then next play, sacked. and then they
Yeah.
punted and got a face mask penalty.
He
on it.
went from
Every single thing there was negative.
he went from, and the only team that looked, and we're going to cover this right now because I think well, I got the Rams on here. Hold on to that thought. The Rams looked convincing in Seattle, 30-13 in the second half. The first half, they took the time off to try and figure out what they were doing. But then Matthew Stafford got moving, 334 yards.
He's got to lube up. He's got old knees.
He didn't throw a touchdown pass. So there's that. But 334 yards. The Rams win it 30-13. I think that's a better way better than last year. They're going to be markedly better than last year. Will Seattle be as good as last year? That's a whole nother question. I don't think Geno Smith was terrible in this game. 16 of 26, he had a touchdown, 4.3 yards per attempt. He was sacked twice. It was nothing. Seattle as a team had 180 yards or something total.
Yeah.
That's not, you can't win many games that way. If you're giving up 334 passing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns to the Rams, that's how they're going to beat you. But Seattle didn't record a sack. Seattle didn't force a fumble or return one or get one. Seattle didn't have an interception or no turnovers. So your defense wasn't helping you any. So anyway, I don't know.
This was the most shocking game of the weekend outside of Cincinnati, Cleveland.
Maybe. You might be right. We're going to talk about that. I got 3 questions for you before we leave. So hold on to that thought. Last thing we're going to talk about is how bad the only team that had a worse first game than the Steelers and Bengals was the Giants. Oh my goodness, I watched this football game Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there every time something happened, all I could say was, can it get any worse? And it did. It
kept getting worse.
It just kept getting worse. And I couldn't understand why. I mean, that literally it came out of my mouth twice at 2 different points in time when I was like, can it get any worse? And then they throw this interception that bounced up in the air and got returned for a touchdown. I was like, oh my, what is going on? How bad is this game? It was so bad that the very first score for the Dallas Cowboys is Noah Igbenogany with a 58-yard return of a blocked field goal, right? That they blow the extra point, but doesn't matter. They're going to get a field goal later. Then Deron Bland, as you're seeing in this picture here, 22-yard interception return for a touchdown, right? So the defense, at the end of the first quarter, the defense has scored twice, right? And the offense has got a field goal.
Right.
Midway through the second quarter, it's still 12 points for the offense and 6 points for the offense and 12 points for the defense. It wasn't until halftime where it evened out a little bit and you had some offensive plays. But the freaking Giants looked terrible. Just terrible. I mean, I don't even know. Daniel Jones, 15 of 28, 104 yards, 2 interceptions.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you can put this on him that much, man.
I know.
He was under pressure the whole game.
He was. And I'm not saying it was fault. But I'm just saying he could not do it. Saquon Barkley, 12 carries.
They couldn't do anything right.
Nothing was going right. I mean, there was not a single facet of the game where you said, hey, the Giants look like they're doing this right.
Except punting.
Except punting.
My goodness, the exercise that they got. I mean, total yards here, you're talking about 265 to 171. So it wasn't like a major overshadowing, but those defensive points were important.
But the Giants had 12 drives. They had the ball 12 times.
Well, I mean, that's because you drive.
I know.
He gets blocked. They score. You get it right back.
I know.
That happened. That accounts for 4 drives.
You had it back to back twice. Yeah, I get it. But in 12 drives, you only managed 171 yards. That's what, 14 yards a drive? Ooh.
Yeah.
2.6 yards per play. Yeah, and Dallas was in the backfield all night. I mean,
all night.
It was
you got sacked 7 times.
7 times.
Like,
and he threw 2
your
picks.
O-line needs a chewing out. They were averaging 1.7 yards per pass.
Yeah, it's not very good.
You gotta help.
I could not believe it was that bad. All right, so let's talk about something real quick. Let's most surprising defensive result. Cleveland shutting down Cincinnati, San Francisco shutting down Pittsburgh, Dallas shutting down the Giants, or the Jets shutting down Josh Allen.
Cleveland shutting down Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
It's got to be because that's a team that averages a pretty good little clip, and
Right. All right.
they couldn't get anything.
I got some more questions. More surprising offensive result. Miami 36 against the Chargers. Green Bay's 38 against the Bears. The Rams 30 against the Seahawks. Or Cleveland's 24 against Cincinnati.
Of those three, I'm going to say the Rams. The reason why I'm not saying Green Bay is because you didn't quite know what you were going to get.
Okay.
Right? You weren't sure. So everything was kind of on the table in terms of they might be great, they might be bad. You don't know. With the Rams, you kind of thought they weren't going to be very good this year.
Which of the scores shocked you the most? Detroit, Kansas City. Just in terms of general scores, the Jets, Buffalo, or the Denver, Las Vegas game. Minnesota losing to Tampa, 2017.
That's the one I was going to go with. I was going to go off script, and then you put it back on there.
Yeah.
The Buccaneers beating the Vikings is a pretty big upset. The Buccaneers have tons of talent.
They do.
But it's whether or not you believe in Baker Mayfield.
I mean, you got to believe
That's
in him
what it all comes down to. Kirk Cousins threw for 344 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He did.
In a loss. Like, that's incredible.
Well, Mayfield's rating was 94. I mean,
he had a good day. He went out. He didn't do much.
Again, short passes. Do what you got to do.
His stat line is almost identical to Russ's.
It is
173,
right.
2 touchdowns. Yeah,
it was weird.
And of course, the score is within 4 points of all of ours. So that makes sense.
I mean, he's got Evans and Godwin to throw to. Kate Otten at tight end. He's got some players. So I mean, he's
got people. Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those. It was another one of those defensive struggles early where the offense hasn't quite figured it out. Defense is always ahead of the offense at this point of the season. All right. Best rookie quarterback debut. Bryce Young at Carolina, 20 of 38, 146, a touchdown and 2 interceptions. He had 3 carries for 17 yards. C.J. Stroud in Houston, 28 of 44, 242 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 carries for 20 yards. Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, 24 of 37, 223, a touchdown, an interception, 10 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown.
I think the one that impressed me the most was Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Because he was taking body punishment, carrying the ball so much. He's not the most efficient passer. I think we all kind of knew that, but he was serviceable. He was better than serviceable. He was good in the passing game, and he added a dynamic thing in the running game. So I would say of those ones, and the Jaguars are a team that I was expecting this year, and I still am, to be fantastic. Right. Like they're all around. They've got talent on all sides of the ball. So I was expecting this to be a runaway, and it was not a runaway. So as a matter of fact, when the fourth quarter started, they were losing.
Yeah. Right.
So.
All right.
I would say Anthony Richardson.
Last question for the NFL for Week 1. The bigger Week 1 overreaction. Which one of these is the biggest overreaction? The Jets can still be Super Bowl contenders without Aaron Rodgers. Cincinnati and Kansas City are both in trouble this year and are going to take a step back. The Packers won't miss a beat without Aaron Rodgers.
Well, kind of breaking those down. The Packers not missing a beat means that they make the playoffs and lose in the first round.
That's true. But I mean,
so
do you think
I can see that? That's not an overreaction. That's fine. Kansas City and Cincinnati take a step back. Kansas City steps back from a Super Bowl to AFC Championship. Sure, I'm okay with that. Yeah, that doesn't seem that surprising. Cincinnati still stays a playoff team. I would say thinking that the Jets are still a Super Bowl contender without Aaron Rodgers is an overreaction.
Even though
that's being very excited about what you saw.
Okay.
Being very excited about a high emotion game, but that is unlikely.
But even seeing what you saw defensively from the Jets.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
There have only been a couple teams in history where the defense drove them all the way in spite of the offense. And one of those was my Broncos back in 2015.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Chicago Bears.
It does not happen often.
No.
So I would side on history and say that it probably won't happen here.
All right. I'm just throwing it out there. These are Week 1 overreactions. We'll have Week 2 overreactions next week. Because every week there's got to be an overreaction. Let's talk about the trivia question. You ready? Power 5 conferences. There are 6 schools that don't have a living animal or human creature, real or imaginary, as their mascot. Who are they? Do you know the 6?
Okay, so I wrote down a ton of things here.
Okay, go.
Okay, and I have 2 categories here, and I'm going to rule out one category right away. You're going to be able to answer it.
All right.
These aren't people per se, but it's like a group.
Yes, those count. That's not. Those aren't. Those are people. If you like the
Okay,
Spartans.
So Falls, Commodores, Red Raiders,
Yeah,
Dukes, Midship,
those are
people.
Those are people.
Even though it's not a specific thing.
Correct.
Okay. So then, hold on, cross that side out. On to the other side. I thought that would not count, but I wanted to just double check. All right,
Right.
so Stanford Cardinal.
Stanford Cardinals won. Yeah, we got that one.
Yep. Akron Zips.
They're not Power 5. We said Power 5.
Oh, we said Power 5. Oh,
Yep.
hold on now.
Yep.
Hold on now.
I don't even know what a zip is, by the way.
Miami Hurricanes.
The Miami Hurricanes. Yep, that's 2.
Iowa State Cyclones.
Yep, there's 3.
Ooh.
You're halfway.
Tulane?
That's pretty
Tulane?
good. Tulane's not Power 5.
Damn it. The whole time you were like doing like the quick like recaps, I was just sitting here like writing down
Trying to
teams.
figure it out. Yeah.
Toledo Rockets.
Yeah, not Power 5.
Damn it. North Texas Mean Green.
Not Power 5.
Damn it.
There's 3 more.
Tulsa?
There's not Power 5. There's 3 more Power 5 teams.
And then the last one I had was Liberty, but they're
Well-
not Power 5. So.
So who did you miss?
Hold on. Can you give me a hint of like a conference
So one of them's in the ACC.
in the ACC?
Correct.
But not Miami. We already.
Right. In addition to Miami, there's one more in the ACC.
Hurricanes. Orange.
The Syracuse Orange, who used to be the
God
Orange Men,
dang it.
and it would have
Exactly.
been, but now they're
I
the
called
Orange.
them the Orange Men when I was thinking.
Yes,
this through.
yes. Was
Was that
Orange.
the one that you were saying was the tricky one?
Well, there's one more.
Okay. Let's get the next one.
One of them's in the SEC.
In the SEC.
Yeah, one of them's in the SEC.
Aggies, Tigers, Rebel. No. Oh, Alabama.
It's Alabama. The
God
Crimson
dang it,
Tide,
that's such an easy one.
right? Exactly. And you know why they got that nickname, by the way?
Because of algae that washes up on the coast.
No, it's not the Red Tide. No, that's Red Tide that washes up on the shore down there in the south. That's a different thing. The Crimson. So literally, this was back in the 30s. Alabama was winning a football game against, I don't remember who it was, but they're one of the sportscasters, one of their announcers or broadcasters, or I don't know if it was radio or if it was in the paper or if it was sports writer. One of their guys said they were playing on some red clay. The field was red clay, and so their white uniforms were red. And they said they looked like a crimson tide out there. And that's how they got the nickname. There you go. All right, so who's left? There's one team left, and I've already shown you the symbol on my little thingy here. But if you weren't looking,
I'm not looking at it. What's conference?
What one team left in the Big Ten?
Let's see here. Terrapins, Nittany Lions, Wildcats, Cornhuskers is a person, I guess.
It is. It's a guy.
Badgers.
Yep.
Boilermakers are people.
Boilermakers are people.
Illini are people.
Yes, the Fighting Illini.
I see Buckeyes are people.
Back.
Oh, Buckeyes are freaking nuts.
Buckeyes are freaking nuts.
God
That's correct.
Dang it.
The Buckeyes are nuts.
That was way harder. I like that. I like that multi-tier question, but that was way harder than I thought because Orangemen threw me because I said Orangemen earlier.
Yep,
and
I
then
did too.
I threw it off my list because of men.
I did too. And I didn't realize that the reason that they changed, you know why they changed to orange? Is from Orangemen.
Why?
They changed because they asked Nike for help rebranding. And Nike said we need to get rid of the orange men and just go with orange. I don't know what the reason was, but somebody in marketing at Nike said that's what you need to do. So now they're just the orange. Yeah. So the orange men, by the way, is also associated with a political movement. Anyway, so that maybe that's where they're trying to distance themselves from. But anyway, there's that.
Next week, the trivia question should be how many mascots in the Power 5 are aquatic?
Are aquatic? Now does that count as?
How many are airborne? Or
when we say aquatic, does Crimson Tide count as aquatic?
I mean, we'll find out next week.
Well, tune in next week and you'll know.
Dude, Bama, just I'm picturing the elephant. Like I know they're the Crimson
See?
Tide, but I'm picturing the elephant.
Iowa State has a bird as their mascot on their things. There's a bird, but they're the Cyclones. I don't. That's weird, right? To have those things like the elephant
Gee,
and
like
Crimson Tide.
Why? Like that I found out those non-Power 5 teams.
Yeah, those were great. The Zips and
Green
the
Waves,
Rockets.
Zips,
Yeah, it's
Mean
awesome.
Green,
Yeah,
Rockets.
the Mean Green. Yeah.
I was like, these are all definitely in there. I didn't hear
Definitely.
you say Power 5 earlier, so they stayed on my list.
It's okay. That's good. It would have been much bigger. And then the oh crap, what was I gonna say?
This would be good.
There was another one. Dang it, there was another. Anyway, never mind. We'll talk about it. I'll figure it out. We'll talk about it next week. We'll recap. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Got anything else that you want to talk about?
I do not know.
All right. So, yeah, we're on YouTube every week. We're on Facebook under the Best Lamb Sports Show. You can email us, lambsports@gmail.com. Check out our webpage for links to the past shows and current trivia question. It's at lambsports.com. I suppose you know what I need is music to take us out. Which one is it?
Dude. Classic.
I mean, I don't know. Thank ESPN, Fox Sports, NBC Sports, ABC Sports, CBS Sports, the NFL, NCAA, the WNBA, and of course our sponsors, The Range in Yakima, Boss Kitty Yarns, Stave and Stone Wine Estates in Hood River. This has been a Brain Rock production, a division of Lonely Tree Media, LLC. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week with more college football and NFL for sure. WNBA playoff update. I don't know what else, but stay tuned and we'll find out.